I actually didn't end up recording the drive to the gym talk lesson because I went a little later. I went around an hour ago, so that would have been 4 p.m. to the gym, and yeah, I went directly from school, so I didn't have that much time to record it, and I was kind of in a rush because I was going with a buddy of mine. But I did record the sets, and I hit back today. I went a little heavier, focused more on the eccentric of the movements, except for when I did these neutral grip lat pull downs. I did that, and I was more. I had somebody recording it, and I felt kind of like bad making them wait whenever I do my, my really slow eccentric movements on my reps. So I kind of rushed it a bit, but I made up for it whenever I did my single handle uh, cable pulls. But so lesson of the day, or yeah, I guess lesson of the day. Trying to think. Trying to think of a lesson. Um, I don't know, man. Right now I'm like empty in the head. Got just zoned out after a brutal workout, but trying to think. um, Dang, the sun, man, really gets your eyes. Okay. Honestly, I don't have anything really, but mm, well, here's something. I've been studying the book of Ecclesiastes. I'm barely actually into it right now. I've read it before, a little bit here and there, and I've really enjoyed the book in the Bible. But I've been going more in depth to it, and so I'll give you a rundown of like the first chapter of Ecclesiastes. So in the first chapter, um, I can't. Is it Solomon? It's either Solomon or I can't remember, but they're describing. Yeah, I think it's Solomon. It's describing the how he had everything. Describing how he was he chased after so many things in life, and essentially what it came to was that it was all essentially folly, or he would describe it as chasing the wind. So essentially a meaningless action that would amount to essentially nothing. um, and he'd always say, I had this, I had that, I had X, Y, and Z. And then he'd say, but it was all meaningless. It was all a chasing after the wind, something like along those lines. And he was essentially saying, without God, or without God or a higher being of existence that created life, essentially all of this is meaningless. If we're essentially a compound of just chemicals and coincidental actions and events that happened, then all this would essentially be just meaningless. Every effort, all that would be meaningless. But thankfully, it's not, because we have a very merciful and loving God, Jesus Christ. And so, what I really like about the book is that it's something that I can relate to a lot, and I'm sure a lot of us can actually, because and day to day, some days we'll feel as if most of the actions that we're doing, or all these tasks that really weigh down on our minds, are essentially meaningless. and we do feel eventually like giving up. And that's something that I do feel a lot as well, is that whenever I'm doing something and I'm putting so much effort in, and then essentially I have like this moment where I'm not doing anything and I'm bored and I'm relaxing, and I start to think, why am I doing this? And you start to have a stray thought that comes in, and you'll be like, why am I doing this? This is just meaningless. Or you could say there'll be a stray thought that comes in that you're like, tomorrow or some other day, let's just chill today. I deserve this, you know? And that essentially, whenever you're bored, you'll start doing things that you normally don't do, and you'll start chasing after things you normally wouldn't want to. And I can tie this into the Ecclesiastes book, because essentially, when I start chasing these things that are meaningless in life, and I start straying off from whatever I'm focused on, it'll all amount to nothing essentially, because what I'm normally, I have a certain task that I want to do, right? And then I start doing things that are not really going to benefit that task, and so essentially I end up wasting time. And that's whenever I have those moments where I'm like, I just wasted time, you know, I wasted my life away right there. This is all meaningless. This is pointless. Why am I doing this? And Solomon really pictures it really well in this book, where he's saying, I've managed to achieve everything I've ever wanted in life. I've possessed everything I've ever wanted. I've had riches. I've had castles. I've had homes. I've had all the servants I've ever wanted. I've had everything in life that it has to offer. And yet, when he had all of that, he found it meaningless. You'll hear a lot of rich people say, money doesn't buy happiness, or at one point money becomes meaningless. And that's somebody that, and from a perspective of somebody that doesn't come from money, or that doesn't possess a lot of materialistic wealth, they'll have something to say along the lines of, like, they'll critique the person that possesses the money, you know? And it makes sense. You can relate, or at least sympathize with that. But at the same time, we also have to realize that until we reach that point, or until we're in that same position as the person who has all the money, and we realize how meaningless money really is to a certain extent at one point, like whenever you possess so much that it covers everything, all the basic necessities, and then you have so much money that you can't even spend it, or like know how to spend it, essentially at one point it does become meaningless. And I think that's where they're trying to come from. And then obviously we also understand where the person that isn't in that position is coming from as well, because to them the money is, they would need it to cover all their necessities, and that's understandable. But whenever you have so much you can't even spend it, it does become meaningless. So there's a middle point where, yes, money is essential to our day-to-day lives to cover our necessities, but there can also be too much, you know? And so I feel like I'm just rambling on at this point, but the main point I'm trying to get across is, whenever we chase things and we obsess over those things too much, and we make it the focal point of our lives, and once we get there and we find it meaningless, that's when life can get really hard. It can become kind of a shackle or a chain on somebody. But God reassures us that it's not all meaningless. that when we pursue Him and His kingdom and eternal life with Him, all of that is not meaningless. Sure, materialistic things and the world and chasing the world is pointless, because it will all eventually one day pass away whenever Jesus comes back for the second coming. But when we chase God in a world full of meaningless materialistic things, life becomes, I wouldn't say easier, definitely not, but you have a hope and a faith that at the end of all this, life will be worth it. All the suffering, all the meaningless thoughts, all those moments where you thought life was meaningless, you're right to a certain extent, where the materialistic aspect of it is meaningless, but not the God-seeking aspect of life. And so, main point being, it's cool to focus on the day-to-day things. Obviously, we have to, in order to keep on living, in order to keep on living. But when you focus too much on it, and you end up like just blocking out God and like seeking His grace and His love and Him on a day-to-day basis, you will run into that wall where you feel as if at one point this is meaningless, or you will reach that point one day. So it's something that we all ought to focus on or work on. And I'm doing that too. Sundays, I'll really, not keep my end of the thing. But it's a work in progress. Day-to-day struggle to always seek the Lord. But I feel like I just rambled on too much. But that'll be it. I'll just put the clips at the end. I forgot to put the music in the last video. I forgot. I was like half asleep whenever I was editing the video, but I'll try my best to put it in this one. That'll be it. I hope you enjoyed it.
You've got to want it.
And as always,
as bad as you want to breathe.
Thank you for watching.
And if you want it that bad, if you're willing to give it that much,
right here,
you get a big piece of what you want. In life, your dreams do come true. Anything you want can happen and become a reality. I believe that sincerely, and I'll die on that thought, okay? And I say that not from something I read, it's from something I lived.
If you want something, everything out there is free to you. Stupid motherfucker. My day was breakfast run, lunch run, dinner run, snack run. Stay hard. I became obsessed with being the baddest motherfucker that God ever created. To be the best in the world at what you do, you have to be unbalanced to find every bit of fucking energy and strength that you have to pull it off.
Like the anime, like the ending, like credits.
I probably want to be able to have like a.
Yeah, it shows like Mika and Aaron together, like in the afterlife, as kids.
But she married. I heard she married Jean. Did she do that in the manga?
I can't remember. But
Yeah.
like, they also at the same time they showed like them visiting Aaron's grave over the years.
I saw that. I saw that clip.
They all got their happy endings.
That's what matters.
all my dreams. You know, I had a lot of dreams of being the best in the world. And every time I would compete, they'd say to me, Dan, you look pretty good, but you're short. And I'd say, I didn't know I was short. You told me. I thought I was 6 foot. I feel like I'm 6'4".
Here you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As easy as getting stuffed up during
Morning, the hot dogs and also the hot dog guy. You give this to me.
with an app that puts your policy in your pocket, it's easy to go.
You around me, Colin.
Making every game day worth doing. Just organize or play stats like rushing yards, touchdowns, and more. And win up to 25 times your cash. Go for the win across the country and get hyped this season with Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Visit prizepicks.com/TV for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy.
AI that needs the right AI for your business. Introducing Watson X, a platform designed to multiply output by tailoring AI to your needs. With the Watson X for Business, you can train, tune, and deploy AI all with your trusted data. Let's create the right AI for your business with Watson X. IBM, let's create